Michael Badges Canning is a husband, father, and grandfather running for the Pennsylvania State House in the heart of Pennsylvania's oil region near the first commercial oil well in the world. He is a retired teacher, big ups to my teachers, and career-long union member and leader of his local. He's been elected to the Cherry Valley Borough Council since 1989. He is a leader in the local, regional, and Pennsylvania anti-fracking climate movement. He has been active in anti-war, anti-discrimination, and movements for working people for decades. And it is my pleasure and my honor to introduce our guest tonight, Michael Badges Canning. Welcome, hon.
Well, thank you very much. And wow, what a hard act to follow. I guess the first thing I want to say is I owe a debt of gratitude to you folks. I circulated a petition for you, also for me to get myself on the ballot, and I got on. And unfortunately, the Democratic Party in Pennsylvania booted you off. So I apologize right off the bat for that. I mean, that was sick. I guess another thing I'd like to acknowledge too is I've listened to Howie a number of times talk about the draft Howie movement, and he talked about Kevin Zeese, and Kevin Zeese and Margaret Flowers. They didn't draft me, but they were certainly a mentor to me. They're powerful. They were powerful people in my life, and Margaret still. And one of the last times I saw Kevin was Margaret and I were locked together on the front of the Democratic National Committee in D.C., refusing to leave, and Kevin was our police liaison. So it's pretty exciting.
I mean, that's awesome. And he was I didn't know him as well as she's fine, Jacqueline. This was days ago. This little hooligan is fine. But yes, Kevin was, I didn't know him as well as y'all do, but in the time that, he and I interacted, I was really impressed. And he's just in a society that does not value that sort of intellect. He's refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, amazing guy. Absolutely.
Well, tell us a little bit about your platform.
All right. Well, we're running on some of the things you were actually talking about. The 5 main bullet points are jobs you can live on, government you can trust, water you can drink, healthcare is a human right, civil liberties protected and expanded, and then also education that's educational. And I kind of want to talk about, you brought up healthcare and how the current resident of the White House is benefiting from the top of the line healthcare. And the one thing that strikes me in my district is how many people lost their healthcare due to this pandemic. We had a lot of folks get unemployed, and as a consequence, they lost their employer healthcare. So, wow. And even though it's not really a state issue, a Medicare for all needs to be a national issue. We are going to push it. We're pushing it really hard because it needs to be pushed. I mean, everything else needs to happen, but we need this like first. We can't live without it. Do you want me to talk more about other stuff, or I mean, how does this work?
I mean, it's pretty much a free flowing conversation.
Okay.
I ask you, and I'm really bad about asking questions, but thinking about the particularly with fracking and what I know about fracking in Pennsylvania, what do you want to talk about with us with that and your platform around being anti-fracking?
Well, first of all, it's something I've been involved in for the last 10 years. I got involved in late 2010. Well, actually, it was 2009, actually. My daughter told us that we were about to become grandparents. And it was about that time also that Butler County, where I live, was just starting to get fracked. And I became aware at that point of a community in Butler County that lost their water. They woke up one morning and people that had water didn't have water, and people who did have water had water that was odd colors. And so I got involved with that community, and here we are 10 years later. 10 years, it'll be 10 years in December. Those folks still don't have water. And once a week, they go to White Oak Springs Presbyterian Church to pick up 20 to 25 gallons of water so they can drink. It's sick. Yeah. I mean, in supposedly the richest country on the face of the planet, we have a community that has 60 families that have to go to a church once a week to get drinking water. So one of the things that I'm running on is this whole notion that we need to stop this practice. And neither the Democrats nor the Republicans are doing anything about it. In fact, they're cheerleaders for it. We also have going in very close to me right now in Beaver County, which is a county adjacent to Butler County. They're putting in a cracker plant. Now, a cracker plant sounds sort of innocuous. It's what they're going to make saltines, but no, what they do is they crack the natural gas that's fracked out of the ground into its component parts to make little things called nurdles, which is going to be used for making plastic. And in order to make this thing work, they need to drill thousands and thousands of wells, which our Democratic governor is a cheerleader for. But in the meantime, we have communities like the one I was talking about who are going to be harmed. And we also have communities that have wells that are near their schools. So one of the things that we're running on is an end to fracking. And we're also running on that any corporation that is a bad citizen that harms people should lose their right to operate in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So again, just a sick little story. Just recently we had Range Resources, which is a company that operates all through the U.S., but is particularly a big operator here in Pennsylvania. They pleaded guilty to fouling the waters of the Commonwealth. And on the day they pleaded guilty to that, they were issued permits by the Department of Environmental Protection to drill some more. We have another company, Cabot, that has been destroying communities in the northeastern part of the state. And they're up for felony charges, a whole handful of them. And again, they also, the day after they were announced, they were standing for these charges. They were getting permits from our Department of Environmental Protection. So, yeah.
The irony of that is just, it's like, whoa, wait, what did I just hear? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, you can't believe some of the stuff. And the initials of DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, really stands for Don't Expect Protection. They're in collusion with the gas industry. They don't do a very good job. That community I was telling you about, the Woodlands, that without water, the best science that's been done points directly to the company that drilled. I mean, but our Department of Environmental Protection exonerated Rex, and they went on drilling for a few more years until they went bankrupt. Which leads me to another thing. Right before they went bankrupt, they worked out a settlement with some of the families in the Woodlands. Nowhere near what they deserved. I mean, $20,000, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second, but they got $20,000, some of these families, after 9 years of being without water. And in order to get that settlement, they had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So this company came in, ruined their water, took all their life savings, because basically if your house doesn't have any water, your house isn't worth anything. And yet they're not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah. That's, oh my God.
Can you imagine if go ahead. I'm sorry, Angela.
There's an obscenity to that. That's just like, how do you do that? How do you do that to people?
Yeah. And if this happened in a criminal case, I mean, where some criminal was telling the people that, hey, I'm going to give you something back. Not what I took from you, but I'll give you something back. But you're not allowed to talk about it, and I'm not going to pay any price. They admitted no guilt and walked away. Yeah, it's sick.
No, yeah. It makes you wonder about justice and what justice in a situation like that would even look like at this point.
Yes, Exactly. It's a sad situation, and the fact that it's illegal for them to even do that. So that's another thing we would do away with, these non-disclosure agreements for basically criminal acts. So that's something else we're running on. Okay, fracking. That's pretty much my thing. We're going to make companies pay. We're going to clean up. They have to clean up what they screwed up, and we're going to put them out of business. They have no business operating in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania or anywhere. The climate doesn't need any more methane in the atmosphere.
And I loved the slogans that you had, like the premises that you were running on. Water you can drink, government you can trust. I like the government you can trust. Elaborate on that for us.
Oh, well, for instance, right now, and the reason I'm in this race is that our districts are so gerrymandered that 40% of our state house reps are running unopposed. I'm a grandfather. I had no intention of doing this. But when I realized in March that my rep, who is horrible, was going to be running unopposed, it just ticked me off. So that's one of the things. We need to get rid of partisan gerrymandering. And we can't blame it. I mean, even though the Republicans set this up, if the Democrats were in charge, they'd be doing the same darn thing, and they benefit anyway. So, yeah, so let's get rid of that. That's craziness. Another thing that happens in Pennsylvania is that we have campaign finance stuff that's out of control. Anybody can donate anything they want to any race. I mean, you could donate hundreds of thousands of dollars if you want to a race. And there's nothing illegal about that. And they call it a kind of campaign contribution. Well, that's a baloney. That's not a contribution. That's a bribe. So we would get rid of that. That's crazy. We're working with a group. Well, I shouldn't say we're working with, but we are modeling our proposal on a group called March on Harrisburg. They're calling for an end to partisan gerrymandering. We're also saying that we need to limit the amount of money that goes into campaigns. Another thing that's outrageous is that our state legislators, a beginner, the entry level pay for a state legislator is about $87,000. And they do that for about 60 days of work a year. But when they're in Harrisburg, they can also get something called a per diem, where they are reimbursed for their time in Harrisburg, and they can get $179 a day in Harrisburg. And they don't have to submit any receipts or anything. They can just say, hey, I want my per diem. And it sets up an interesting situation. Number one, if they work an 8-hour day, that works out to about $22.38 an hour, added to their $87,000 salary. But the sick thing is that we have people in Venango and Butler County, where my district is, that the average hourly rate is $19.28 an hour. And these people are expected to eat and feed themselves and everything else without the $87,000 salary. So let's get rid of that per diem. They don't need that either. And the other thing that is absolutely outrageous is that anybody can gift our legislators almost anything. And so like our guys are getting, and gals are getting sports tickets. They are getting luxury vacations. They're getting trips to Europe for wine tasting. They're getting all sorts of things. And they also get every single day they're in session, there's wining and dining. There's a meal to be had every single day. And that ties in nicely with the per diem, because if you wanted to really get your salary, and it's tax deductible, by the way, per diem, if you wanted to get your salary supplemented a little bit more, you wouldn't even bother buying any of your food. You just go to the endless wining and dining by the lobbyists. So yeah, let's get rid of that. That's craziness as well.
You're trying to make it look like something other than it actually is. They're not even bothering to hide it or try to disguise it or downplay it. I mean, that is so blatant.
Oh, it's yeah. I mean, and again, I think I understand where the idea of a per diem came from. I mean, I think I heard that some legislators, when they first start working, they move to Harrisburg or even Washington, I guess, or maybe when you're vice president, you'll have this problem too. You'll move to your new home and you won't have a whole lot of money because you haven't been making a fortune. But all of a sudden you have to start paying for your home. Well, that's great. Okay, so let's get them started. But this nonstop for as long as you're in office thing, that's crazy. Yeah. And don't even get me started on lobbyists. The oil and gas industry alone has 203 lobbyists in Harrisburg. Now, amazingly, that's exactly how many state reps there are, 203 state reps in Pennsylvania. So I don't know what that means, but...
But it sounds like, for me down here in South Carolina listening is what it sounds like is each individual, there's a lobbyist for each politician. And
that's just the oil and gas industry. Yeah, so there's got to be more. So let's get rid of them too. Get them out of here. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. So that's pretty much this thing for government you can trust.
I love that. We've got a question from the chat. We had a comment earlier, and I'll read it for you. Max, hey, Max Movius, or Mavius, if I'm wrong, go and correct me. Does Mike have a competitor from the Democratic Party?
I don't. And that's a good point. There is no competitor from the Democratic Party. All we have is Lee James, who's the 4 or 5 term incumbent. And actually, I'm kind of glad you asked this because, again, the seats are so safe that out of those times he's run unopposed twice. And the idea of a campaign to him is signs and an occasional newspaper ad. We're not running that kind of campaign. We're running a campaign that reflects who I am. And that is, I am a community organizer. So we're out and we're doing stuff to get people connected. We're doing a real sophisticated campaign as far as we're getting lots of phone calls. We have lots of volunteers doing phone banking. We've raised a significant amount of money, considering. We have nowhere near, though, the amount of money that he has. He's got $36,000 in the bank. Any candidate prior to my candidacy, the most any candidate has raised was about $3,500. So this guy has amassed this huge war chest. He does not know what's going to hit him because, like I said, he's done nothing. He's run away from us. I heard you talking about the debates. I've been to his office both in my local community and also in Harrisburg, asking if he would debate, and he has ignored me. He won't even answer that question, but he doesn't know what's going to hit him because we're about to hammer him with a real campaign that he's not aware of yet. So yes, we got a competitor. He's a Republican. This is a very Republican district, but I ran for this seat in 2016 as well. And I knocked on lots of doors. And since I'm not a Democrat, I knocked on lots of Republican doors as well. And one thing I found out over and over and over again is that this guy is not particularly well liked by Republicans either. He's disappointed the Republicans on a number of issues, including the gasoline tax that went through in 2014, I believe. They're angry with him, and he hasn't done anything for the local economy. I've lived in this district for 40 years, and since I've lived here, we've hemorrhaged jobs and young people, and he's done nothing to stem that bleeding. He's done lots. He's voted for bailouts and tax breaks and rebates for the oil and gas industry. He's watched while businesses have left our district. So we have a competitive campaign, even though he doesn't know it yet. We're gonna get him good.
And I just want to jump in before we take another question and just let you know, I don't know if you can see the comments in the chat, but you're getting a lot of love. A whole lot of people seem to know who you are. You're getting a lot of encouragement and a lot of love. So I want you to know that.
Well, I've been feeling a lot of love for a few weeks now, so that's good. let me put in a plug though. One thing we would like to do is run a commercial on cable TV. And if you can donate, visit the webpage, mikeforpa64.com, and let's get some money in the bank so we can put that on too. But we're going to do some other stuff too. Even if we don't get that, we got some other exciting things on deck. But thank you for doing it. I can't read. It's so much is happening so quick on there. I can't keep up with it.
Getting a lot of love, and on the screen is your website, so it's pretty dope.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Luke Landis is saying Mike's opponent, and I saw this in the chat, has a 0 out of 100 rating from the Sierra Club. That's pretty rough.
Well, and again, I mean, you mentioned it early. I grew up. I didn't grow up. I live now, I should say, in the oil region. This is where the industry began. In 1859, Colonel Drake drilled a well. And so this region has often defined itself by what has been extracted from beneath us. But the other thing that we now define ourselves with is the damage done by this industry. And Lee, that's the name, Lee James is my opponent. Lee has embraced this dying industry. I mean, it's been out of here forever. We used to be the home of Quaker State, and they don't live here anymore. And and the oil industry is gone, and the coal industry that used to work here is gone. But he keeps going for it, and that's why the Sierra Club, I'm sure, doesn't give him much love. But yeah, he's horrible.
No,
he's wrong in everything.
Interesting. And T. Boogs is asking Mike, how would you handle the lobbyists yourself? Just curious. I love the campaign strategy and wish you the best of luck.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, lobbyists will not be welcome in our office. When we are in Harrisburg, in the Capitol, they're not coming to see us, and we're not whining and dining with them. We're going to be elected to represent the people of PA-64. And if they want to come visit, then we will open the doors and be very happy to talk to them. But lobbyists, no, thank you. No, just it ain't happening.
Hey, Robert, it's my homie, Robert Austin. What would be ideal economically in your district?
Great question. One of our largest manufacturers that closed a couple years ago was Joy Manufacturing. Joy Manufacturing used to make equipment for the coal mining industry. And that was 600 good-paying union jobs that went down the tubes. But those were highly skilled workers. And it's amazing what they could do. And one of the things they could do, I just talked to Dr. Patty DeMarco. She's a professor at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. And she wrote a book about Rachel Carson. But anyway, one of the things she talked about was that Joy Manufacturing is perfectly positioned to manufacture equipment that would convert old coal mines into storage facilities for energy by making compressed air and putting it in the coal mines. We have lots of coal mines in Pennsylvania. And those folks at Joy Manufacturing, it's the very same equipment they used to make before. So there's that. Other industry things. I mean, tourism is huge. The Allegheny River flows right through our area. It's part of the National Wild and Scenic River. We have bike trails and that, but they are badly neglected. In fact, we don't even have a bicycle shop anymore, and we have a gorgeous bike trail. But our government is not taking care of small businesses that would do things like maybe operate a bicycle shop. They are giving $1.6 billion to Shell, Royal Dutch Shell, to put in this cracker plant in Beaver County, and then with rebates on top of that. So, yeah, there's another thing. Let's build our tourism industry. Also, we have old housing stock. A Green New Deal. Let's fix up those houses. Let's get people living in houses that don't leak. Let's democratize the grid. Let's put solar on every home so that people are able to afford their electricity. Let's all kinds of things. I mean, we have a very highly skilled populace here, folks that were actually good at doing stuff that are now unemployed because our government and our region has invested in dying industries instead of looking to the future. So there's that as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
The Falcon General. Hey, darling. Hey, Mike, if you get elected, when you get elected, let's go on and amend that. When you get elected, which committees do you want to join?
Well, for sure, I want to be on the Environmental Resources and Energy Committee. Butler County, where I live, and it's part of the district, we currently have 3 horrible representatives in Harrisburg on that committee. I'm going to knock one of them off. He's going to be gone, so I'm going to be there to counter the other 2, and we'll talk about the real damage that's being done in Pennsylvania to that. I've also been involved with, and I again, you'll have to forgive me, I don't know all the committees, but I've been heavily involved with the state Poor People's Campaign. I would definitely love to be involved in stuff related to that. So.
And I need to jump in just a half a second because I see it in the chat and I realize I messed up. Howie is traveling, people. He is going to be, as y'all know, on the free and equal debate on the 8th. So he is, Mr. President is traveling to Denver to make that happen. So that's why he's out tonight, and the vice president is handling it. But yeah, I just noticed it was in the chat, and I totally aired it out. But yes, President Hawkins is on his way to Colorado. Levi Tooker. Hey, honey. How has the war on drugs affected your community, and what would you do about it?
Well, first of all, it has affected our communities. And one thing we're talking about is decriminalizing. We don't think there's any good reason to be throwing people in jail for addictions and that kind of stuff. We need to treat addiction, not criminalize it. The other thing is I've been doing a lot of reading, and it's amazing if you have no hope. It's amazing how many people turn to drugs. So one thing we need to do is we need to give people hope. And one of the way you could do that is by giving them a future. I've got 4 kids, and my 4 kids, 2 of them had to leave the area to even get employment. And my other 2, they live locally, but they often have to leave the area to work in their professions. So, and this is just it's a story that repeats itself over and over again. So we need to do things that give people hope. Young people need to be employed. They need to have a future. They need to know that medical treatment is not going to put them in debt. We need to have things where young people aren't going to be saddled with debt for the rest of their lives because they went to school. We need to do all kinds of, so I think we need to build hope. And the other thing we absolutely need to do is rebuild our communities. Again, the 2 big cities in the district are Franklin and Oil City. You can imagine what Oil City looks like because Oil City's economy was built on the oil industry. But both Franklin and Oil City are shells of what they used to be. They have grand old buildings that are in disrepair. It's depressing to grow up in a place where everything is falling down around you. So that as well. I mean, we need to reinvest in our community, give our people hope, and have them have something to look forward to. So, and I don't want to make it sound like that's the only answer, but I mean that's big.
I think that's very important. I think it's a very important point, and I think that where we stand, as far as our campaign stands with decriminalization and legalization for the same reasons. This is not a criminal issue. This is a medical issue, and it should be treated as such.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, Zeke. Zeke Kramer wants to know, would you create jobs by creating public transportation, which is close to my heart, in your district?
Yeah. I mean, again, I live in a district that is primarily rural. But what's sad is that even in rural areas, you need to get around. And unfortunately, you need to get around a lot more than they used to. For instance, I used to be able to walk to a grocery store, even though I live in a rural area. I could walk to a grocery store. Well, we had Walmart come in, and they were incentivized to come in. They got tax breaks and infrastructure bills, but my grocery store is gone. It's no longer there. So I have to drive 20, 30 minutes to shop. So yeah, we absolutely need to have public transport in rural areas, but also in those the tiny little cities that we have. But here's an interesting story. 80 some years ago, I had a neighbor, she's dead now, but I had a neighbor that used to tell me about, she used to walk to the train station from her home, which was in a rural place, but there was a train station. She used to walk, and she used to shop in Pittsburgh, which is a good 70, 80 miles away. She could hop on that train, shop in Pittsburgh, and then come back that evening. We can't do that anymore. If you live in a rural area now, you either have to have a car, or you have to be reliant on your neighbors to get you someplace, because there is no public transportation. Yes, we need public transportation. Let me kind of segue into another bit of public infrastructure. I don't know if it's going to be on here, but you may have noticed that my screen is flashing, and maybe sometimes it goes away. Well, one piece of infrastructure that we don't have in rural areas, 37% of Pennsylvanians, and probably similar numbers across the country, we have terrible internet service. So the FCC says that basic internet service should be about 25 megabits per second. On a good day, I get 3.4 megabits per second. So I don't even have basic service. So we need to upgrade our internet service, internet infrastructure. That's critical, because again, rural areas, farmers rely on the internet now for all sorts of things. And an MIT study found that you get more and better paying jobs if you have good infrastructure. Well, we don't have that in rural Pennsylvania.
Looking for a question. And just thinking about, I used to be, and I kind of cringed a little bit when you were talking about lobbyists, but I wasn't that kind of lobbyist. I was the legislative director for the transit union. I lobbied in a good way. We weren't looking for money. We were looking for, please understand why we need to expand and fund transit, and that we need to protect the state transportation fund and things like that. So when you're talking about expanding public transit, it's something extremely close to my heart, particularly for rural areas, because you should still be able to step on a train, a high-speed rail, and go into, a town and do whatever it is you need to do, or wherever you want to go, and be able to come home. And these things, we see it around the world. This is entirely doable. You can do this clean, and it's efficient, and it's transportation is part of crucial infrastructure, and it needs to be treated as such.
And let me also say, Angela, that I would welcome the lobbyists for workers. I don't have a problem listening to what workers say. I have a problem with extractive corporations coming in and dictating what's going to happen in my backyard. Yeah, paying workers. Yeah.
What you using you, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wasn't a bad lobbyist. And our friend Amin Zeri, if I'm butchering your name, baby, let me know, is asking, Mike, how can your district, and I saw that in the chat, good question, how can your district benefit from the Green New Deal?
Well, again, like I said, I would love for there to be investment in a renewable future for our area. I mean, we existed for decades because of what was taken away from us. In the meantime, we have, you can't see it because it's dark here and and I'm outside. But people say solar can't work in Pennsylvania. Well, for the last 10 years, Karen and I decided that we would do that. So yeah, we can generate electricity. That's for that's something that can be done. So I would love that. I would love to see our workers doing that here in Western Pennsylvania. I would love to see our workers also, like I said, I think I already talked a little bit about this, reclaiming our housing stock. It needs to be renovated. We need to get more heat pumps in homes, geothermal heat pumps. We have a great resource. We're not using it. Community solar would be great. I live in a rural area. Like I said, wouldn't it be wonderful if our rural electric cooperatives were actually leaders in putting up renewable facilities? But again, so yes, we need all this stuff. In a Green New Deal, like I said, we also need to put our workers to work, but we also need to think about the workers that are going to be displaced, because we do have workers that are in extractive industries now, and we can't leave them behind. We need to have jobs for them, so there needs to be training for them as well.
That's an excellent point. And we had some really amazing questions, and we do this every Tuesday, so whenever, pop in. I want, what do you want to say to people? What do you want to most leave them with?
Well, I have a chance of winning. That's what I want to leave people with. That this is not tilting at windmills. We are running a real campaign, and I would love to get the help from Greens all across the country. Please donate time if you have it. We need phone bankers. If you can't donate time, then donate money. We need that. And if you can't do either of those things, then just send me good wishes. I'm needing them too. So.
And how do we find you on social media?
Oh my. Well, if you go to my webpage, Mike for PA-64 has links to Facebook. We're pretty active there. We're also pretty active on Twitter. We're doing a pretty good job there. It's amazing all the new skills I'm getting here. And then one that I've been kind of fascinated with lately is one of my young supporters has got me doing these 1-minute videos on Instagram. So you can check us out there too. But all those links are on the webpage.
I'm looking for your Twitter so I can follow you. If I'm not, I believe I'm probably already following you, but if I'm not, I will be.
Well, I appreciate that.
And signal boost everything that you're putting out, because I think people need to. In fact, I don't think I know. What you're bringing to people, not just in Pennsylvania, but throughout the country, and thinking about places in the middle of the country that are dealing with the same issues, and the fact that there is bipartisan support to continue this status quo of abusing planet and abusing people in this way, and that they're fine with this, and nobody, they feel, by and large that folks aren't speaking up. So all of our folks who are fighting to end these practices, we need to lift y'all up as much as we can and as often as we can.
Well, I appreciate that, and I will say this too, that those are the folks that have lifted me up. They've inspired me for decades, especially in the last decade. I've met people that are on the front lines that are being harmed every single day, and yet they are powerful people. They are indefatigable. So yeah, I want to be there for them, and a lot of them have been there for me in this campaign. I mean, they've really reached out to me as well. So yeah, I appreciate that.
And do you have any last thoughts you personally want to give folks? Because like I said, you've gotten so much love in this chat.
Well, I want to give some love to you folks, Angela and Howie. I can't wait until Inauguration Day, and I get to watch you guys being sworn in. That'll be great. We need to change the narrative across this whole country.
I really appreciate, and like, like I said, you're getting love in the chat, but what a pleasure to meet you. What a pleasure to have you here with me tonight. And, for me to hear firsthand from you about what you're running on, all of these super important things. So it's my honor to be meeting you.
Same here. I'm so pleased to meet you.